This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Chapter 51, Bait for the Net, and our symbol is the opposing... Still not sure what to call this one.
I think we've gone with the black Ajah symbol.
Okay, yeah, we'll call it the black Ajah
the two
symbol.
Faces
the opposing
inverted.
Forces, yeah. From the corner of her eye, Nynaeve thought she glimpsed a tall man with reddish hair and a swirling brown cloak, well down the sunlit street. But as she turned to peer from under the wide brim of the blue straw hat Aelwyn had given her, an ox-drawn wagon was already lumbering between them. When it lurched on, the man was nowhere to be seen. She was almost certain that had been a wooden flute case on his back, and his clothes were certainly not Taran. It couldn't be Rand. Just because I keep dreaming about him does not mean he's going to come all the way from Almouth Plain. A little late for that, Nynaeve.
And we know he's in the city.
You're dreaming of him because he has come all the way from
exactly.
Almouth Plain.
And this whole beginning paragraph and the one after it is just like a big red flashing light screaming, "Rand is here!
Yeah.
Rand is here! Rand is here!"
One of the barefoot men hurrying past, with the sickle-shaped tails of a dozen large fish sticking up from the basket on his back, suddenly tripped, catapulting silver-scaled fish all over his head as he fell. He landed on his hands and knees in the mud, staring at the fish that had come out of his basket. Every one of the long, sleek shapes stood upright, stuck nose down in the mud, forming a neat circle. Even a few passerby gasped at that. Slowly, the man got to his feet, apparently unaware of the mud on him. Unslinging his basket, he began gathering the fish back into it, shaking his head and muttering to himself. A meat circle? Very good, East Badger. A neat meat circle.
It is. I guess fish is meat, so...
Yeah, sure.
It's a neat meat circle. I like it. Oh, and I just want to follow up with in the last chapter, I couldn't find the quote where Matt spotted Rand.
Yeah.
We found it after the recording. He did spot Rand in the last chapter.
Matt?
Yeah. Oh, so here's the quote provided by Bananas McGee. Matt stared blearily up the street at a tall man in a cloak hurrying around the corner. Light, I am tired. Rand is 500 leagues from here, playing at being the bloody dragon. So, tall man in a cloak hurrying around the corner. And then Matt thinks of Rand, and we do think that is him spotting Rand.
Ah.
That was chapter 49.
And intro, Nynaeve haggling with a butcher.
Kind of. I feel like the butcher doesn't really care.
Yeah. Nynaeve blinked, but her business was with this cow-faced brigand facing her in the doorway of his shop with bloody cuts of meat hanging from the hooks behind him. And she goes on a bit. She buys the meat for what she thinks is way too much, probably to give to Aelwyn. This is her rent. She's supposed to bring meat home.
Right.
Because it's exorbitantly expensive.
Right. And Aelwyn's providing everything else for them. A place to live, all that kind of stuff. That's right, because she did say if you do want to provide something, a little meat here and there because it's so expensive.
And Nynaeve has this whole thought process where she thinks about how the rising prices of basic commodities like food. And the one thing that I picked out about it, because, we've gone over this a bunch in previous episodes. I don't really feel like it's too worth explaining, Civil War and Cairhien, the, grain, economics and whatever. But I picked out this part. Elaine had explained all about the grain being eaten by rats in the granaries because no one in Cairhien could buy. And that just doesn't seem...
In Andor, the grain is sitting unused in Andor, and because no one can buy it in Cairhien to give out to the people.
I see.
And because, God forbid, you provide food without a profit motive.
For free.
Right, for free. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's real life. That's
right.
actually the way it works.
A lot of countries do provide humanitarian aid.
Sure.
And that's, I think a concept that's just, foreign to these people until Rand forces them to feed the Cairhenians.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed, Nynaeve, after she's talking with the butcher, she whirled the stalk away and nearly fell. She was still not used to these clogs. They kept sticking in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
I had a thought that the reason Nynaeve's clogs stick in the mud more than anybody else's is because she stomps around everywhere she goes. And so she slams the clogs down into the mud, and that's why they get stuck.
Could be. I like the image.
Kind of the way Elaine always gets the veil stuck in her mouth because she has her nose up in the air. Like, I imagine the same
although
thing.
It's never explicitly
it's
stated.
never explicitly stated, but I imagine the reason Nynaeve has so much trouble with the clogs is because she just stomps everywhere.
And on the next page, geez, I don't have a terrible lot here either. But what I found interesting about it, or what I found interesting on this page, really, is Nynaeve thinking about, that damn Moraine, this and that. I wish she had never taken the kids from Emmons Field, and I could have done enough to save Egwene and Rand. And then she immediately has the thought that of course, isn't true, and they both probably would have died.
This is some interesting sort of internal monologue from Nynaeve, following her, mental pathway that makes me feel like Nynaeve is a real person. This whole, I have these sort of inner monologues all the time where she goes from, thinking about the butcher and having patience for Sandar, and then having patience for Egwene, and then, that leads her to Moraine, which leads her to how much she hates her, which leads her to, it's just this whole chain of thought, and then she runs into Sandar, and she's like, "What?" And he's like, "What?
Nothing?
Nothing? What's going on?" And she's like, "Never mind." I did notice that Egwene is not using the Terangrial to get into the dream here, because the last thing she saw was those 13 Aes Sedai in the dream world sitting around Kalendor, and they haven't gone back to the world of dreams since, because it's too dangerous.
Oh.
Because all 13 of those Aes Sedai saw them there and are waiting.
Yeah. And Nynaeve runs into Julian.
Yeah,
and
Julian Sandar.
after their brief, awkward exchange, she says, "Have you found them?" And he says, yes, you must come back with me. The others are waiting. The others. And Mother Gwenna.
The others being all the Black Ajah.
Yeah, I wanted that to be something, because he says the others twice in, the same thought.
I mean, I think he's just nervous. He's lying to her to try and get her back. He's under compulsion.
Yeah.
But it's compulsion light. Leandrin is not that great at it.
Uh-huh.
And so she's sort of just convincing him to convince himself to betray them. But yeah, he knows what he's doing is wrong. He just can't, he has to do it, so he's got this incredible amount of nervousness going on as he's trying to convince Nynaeve to come back with him to the trap that has been set.
Right.
And he knows it's a trap. He just thinks it's the right thing to do.
He calls her out. "These women you seek, they're in the stone, guests of the High Lord Salmon. Why did he call them thieves? The High Lord Salmon," he almost squeaked. There was sweat on his face. It's so unlike Julian.
Yeah, he's a cool customer.
Yeah, he is. A cool customer. I like that phrase.
But we know the High Lord Salmon is, of course, Bilal.
Yes. Nynaeve tries to calm him down. Says, "We'll explain everything when we get there. Don't worry about it."
Yeah. And by saying we'll explain everything, she's like, "Oh, I hope I can come up with something."
Yeah.
Because I don't actually have anything, but
working on that story right
yeah,
now.
I'm gonna grind away on that. Try and tell the truth without lying.
I liked this little part. I don't know why, but I'm going to read it. "The horses were tied to a bamboo hitching rail now," as she enters the courtyard. "Now, well away from Aelwyn's new figs, as well as her vegetables, with their saddles and bridles stored inside. For once she did not stop to pat Guyden's nose and tell him he was a good boy, and more sensible than his namesake."
Than all Guyden.
Yeah.
Although she's definitely referring to Lan in particular.
Totally. I just thought that was cute.
I just note that Sandar halts for a second to scrape the mud off his feet. And that's partially just to let her go walk into the trap, I think.
Yeah. It's hard to say what's going on in his head. Because like you said, Leandrin has knowledge of compulsion, but it's one of the childhood tricks that we hear about throughout the series, and it's a really poor version of compulsion.
Yeah, she can't make her victims do anything, but she makes them want to do it, and then they are often able to justify it in their own heads.
Right. She has to bring them to an emotionally
Isn't that Varen?
Unstable place, and then she can do it. Oh, I thought that was...
With Varen, it has to be trust, and Leandrin has to get him off balance.
Isn't it Leandrin that does it in Shinar to search for Rand?
That's right.
That's
yes.
Leandrin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of the Red Sisters.
Well, and Leandrin in the first couple of books is the Red Sister.
Yeah, yeah. Sandar halted to scrape mud from his clogs with the butt of his staff, but she hurried inside. Aelwyn Gwenna was sitting in one of her high-backed chairs, pulled out into the room, her arms at her sides. The gray-haired woman's eyes were bulging with anger and fear, and she struggled furiously without moving a muscle. Nynaeve did not need to sense the subtle weaving of air to know what had happened. Light. They found us. Burn you, Sandar. Rage flooded her, washed away the walls inside that usually kept her from the power, and as the basket fell from her hands, she was a white blossom on a blackthorn bush, opening to embrace Saidar, opening... It was as if she had run into another wall, a wall of clear glass. She could feel the true source, but the wall stopped everything except the ache to be filled with the one power. The basket hit the floor, and as it bounced, the door behind her opened and Leandrin stepped in, followed by a black-haired woman with a white streak above her left ear. They wore long, colorful silk dresses, cut to bare their shoulders, and the glow of Saidar surrounded them. Leandrin smoothed her red dress and smiled with that pouting rosebud mouth. Her doll's face was filled with amusement. "You see, do you not, Wilder?" she began. "You have no—" Nynaeve hit her in the mouth as hard as she could.
Nice.
Light, I have to get away. She backhanded Rhianna so hard that the black-haired woman fell on her silk-covered rump with a grunt. They must have the others. But if I can make it out to the door, if I can get far enough away they can't shield me, I can do something. She pushed Leandrin hard, shoving her away from the door. Just let me escape their shielding, and I'll... Blows hit her from every side, like fists and sticks, pummeling her. Neither Leandrin, blood trickling from the corner of her now grim mouth, nor Rhianna, her hair as disarrayed as her green dress, lifted a hand. Nynaeve could feel the flows of air weaving about her, as well as she could feel the blows themselves. She still struggled to reach the door, but she realized that she was on her knees now, and the unseen blows would not stop. Invisible sticks and fists striking at her back and her stomach, her head and her hips, her shoulders, her breasts, her legs, her head. Groaning, she fell onto her side and curled into a ball, trying to protect herself.
Now, that punch and run worked for her once when the Shan-Chan were taking them with Leandrin. Surprised Leandrin wasn't more prepared for it.
Right?
It's like, Nynaeve does that.
You don't jump these two rivers girls. Like, it just doesn't work out.
They throw fists as easily as anything else.
I know. And that scene made me wish that Nynaeve had a knife in her hand or something, because that could have ended it.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other Aes Sedai in the room.
Yeah, I don't think she could have. I don't think she had a chance of escaping, but I do like that she both hit Leandrin pretty hard and gave Rhianna a backhand, so she went flying.
Yeah. I imagine it was like
1-2,
one
right?
fairly smooth motion, like forward with the fist and then back with the same hand.
I imagine it was two different hands. Like, she gave the Leandrin a right hand, and then with her left hand, like, smacked Rhianna on the other side.
Who's teaching these girls how to fight? Perrin, I
Perrin,
guess.
yeah.
Is some referencing Egwene's thought.
So thank you, Perrin, but you didn't tell me how much that was going to hurt when he trains her up on how to punch.
Because she gets collared and then punches the Soldam in the face, but she gets punched with her own punch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the girls love to throw fists.
Hey, I mean, I respect it.
Especially when channeling. Or, like Nynaeve throws a statue at Moghedien.
Oh, right.
Here we get a reference about Egwene going almost mad when they took her. So they've got Elaine and Egwene already.
Yeah.
And Egwene, because of her experience with the Shan-Chan, does not react to being taken prisoner well.
Loses her mind.
Yeah, she goes absolutely nuts. So they had to, hurt her pretty good to put her down.
Yeah. Perhaps you are too stupid to know when you were defeated, Wilder. You fought almost as wildly as that other foolish girl, that Egwene. She almost went mad. You must all learn to submit. You will learn to submit.
Dude, Rihanna's line here, I will stop her heart. We have no use for this one, at least. Just cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just take her out, no problem. That line is one of the few, really hits me that the Black Aja are just evil. They're like, yeah, I'll just stop her heart, whatever, we don't need her anymore. All right, Rihanna beating brings up a very different set of images than I was going for.
Rihanna, or Rihanna, I'm saying for differentiation. is at the last battle in the field of Marilor. And she's one of the group of Dark Friend, Aes Sedai, and Ashaman that are lured into an Ogier steading and imprisoned there.
Oh, good. So she gets to live the rest of her life cut off from the true.
Long life.
Very long life.
Never allowed to leave.
Poor girl.
I kind of wanted to look her up because I was wondering if Rhianna is... how powerful she is. And mid-level, it looks like. Powerful enough to make a gateway.
I was going to say, these Leandrin and Brianna must be pretty powerful if they're the ones, and we know Leandrin's top tier Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
Because Nynaeve is already just incredibly powerful. And so to shield her
is probably taking the two of them.
Yeah. I think she could shred one of their shields, even if she wasn't channeling yet.
How many are here? 3?
I thought I counted at least 4. And possibly 6. It was hard to really be sure. Let's see.
Leandrin, Rhianna, Amiko.
And Bayar. Joya.
Oh, okay. This is sort of interesting, and I'm not sure why Leandrin does this, but Rhianna says, we don't need this, we don't need Mother Gwenna, like, let's just kill her. I'll just stop her heart. And I should, as an aside, say I kind of wanted to look her up because I remember that the stop her heart thing, stop a person's heart thing, is actually, it's a real complicated weave that's related to healing.
Right. Is Rhianna yellow?
I don't know. I didn't look at it, but I was just curious.
She's of the white, secretly part of the black.
I think Swan tells us that later. Okay, but in this scene, bringing it back around, Leandrin stops Rhianna from killing Mother Gwenna and just basically tells Mother Gwenna, like, you know what will happen. Like, the High Lord Salmon is on our side. You know what'll happen to you if you open your mouth, so why don't you just shut up and not do anything? And they just leave her there.
I think it's just about, like, not always leaving a trail of bodies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the threat is more effective than, like, oh, a body, and then it gets investigated, and anyone who's looking for them, it might point.
I mean, there's not a ton Mother Gwenna could do.
No. And without Matt's luck, having him, run into Mother Gwenna, there's no way that anyone would have known about it.
Yeah, that's true. She is important because Matt walks in a few hours after this.
Yeah, about 3 hours later.
And
Mother Gwenna tells him
manages
what
to
happened.
pry it out of her.
Yeah. But, I mean, the reality is, like, no one considers Matt a threat. So I think even if they knew, they wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, I mean, the Black Aja certainly wouldn't consider him a threat.
No.
He's just a boy with a stick.
Right. And some fireworks.
Yeah. Mother Gwenna agrees to not say anything.
Yeah, Nynaeve says, who could she tell? Matt.
I kind of noted that the soldiers that are guarding the carriage out front are also, like, sweating and filled with anxiety.
The rolling of the eyes is a Jordan thing for, like, being terrified. Like, because a lot of times these characters get
weird.
like...
That's like what a horse does,
right.
But whatever.
Because they get tied up with the weave of air, and it gets, like, put in their mouth, and then, like, they can't move or do anything. So the only thing they can move is their eyes, and so he's constantly, like, describing these people as terrified and rolling their eyes.
It's a good image. Elaine stood between the two black sisters, with a bruised eye and a swollen cheek and a split lip. One sleeve of her dress torn halfway off. I'm sorry, Nynaeve, she said thickly, as if her jaw hurt. We never saw them until it was too late. Egwene lay in a crumpled heap on their floor, her face swollen with bruises, almost unrecognizable. As Nynaeve and her escort came in, one of the big soldiers hoisted Egwene over his shoulder. She dangled there as limply as a half-empty barley sack. And Nynaeve starts yelling at the Black Aja.
That's why we love her.
Yeah, that spirit.
They pack him into the coach, which I noticed the sigil was a silver-gaunted fist clutching lightning bolts, which has, like, how obvious can you get that this is a channeler sigil? Like, a fist with lightning bolts in it? Seriously? Like, thank you,
Good
Bilal. Like, yes, what shall I choose as my signal? A man casting lightning bolts. What? Why would you choose that? She supposed it was High Lord Salmon's sign. A dark friend he must be, if he deals with the Black Aja. Or Forsaken.
Not technically a dark friend.
Those fool dark friends that follow Ishamael. That's a question. Are all Dark Friends followers of Ishmael or the Dark One?
The Dark One. He's the only one that can actually, like, make the connections and things.
But I'm wondering if because Ishmael was the one who was out, he was the one who was like...
Actually putting them to work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he is sort of the hand of... Well, I was going to say he's the hand of the dark, but no, that's, of course, the hand of the dark. Shadar Haran. But Ishi is... Yeah, Ease Badger says that Ishi's the one running the show.
I mean, Ishmael is running a lot of the show. But, you know, we see other Forsaken using Dark Friends.
Totally. I guess I'm just thinking of that quote where Lanfear refers to the Dark Friends as Ishmael's followers.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, some of the Forsaken don't use Dark Friends very much, like Lanfear.
Yeah. Or Grendel. She just uses compelled people.
Yeah.
It's all a pyramid scheme. You get 2 people to join the Dark One, and they get 2 people to join the Dark One, and they get 2 people to join the Dark One, and we'll all live forever.
Profit.
And they kill 2 people, and they kill 2 people.
Like Nynaeve threatening them, even after they keep hitting her while she's yelling at them. If you have killed her, I won't rest till you're all hunted down like wild dogs. Rhianna glared, but Leandrin only sniffed. Don't be a complete fool, Wilder. You are wanted alive. Dead bait will catch nothing.
I always enjoy the fact that very few of the 13 Black Oddjaw that escaped were actually tackled by these 3. I think we looked that up at one point. I think like Nynaeve took out 1 or something. I forget exactly what the numbers are, but the 13 Black Aes Sedai, like most of them die in the last battle or get tracked down or killed by Forsaken for failing.
Yeah.
Or like I think Matt takes out a couple.
That wouldn't surprise me. I don't specifically remember. But they just managed to kind of chase them back and forth across the continent.
Right. Ruining their plans in every city they try and like
which is
Something.
significant.
Sure. And I guess in a way it is killing them because then they get like, you failed, die.
Yeah.
It's an interesting sort of heroes. We see it a lot with like villains in stories that need to be like gotten rid of. They lose, but we don't want the good guys to kill them because then they wouldn't be the good guys. So they go report back to the bad guys, and then the bad guys kill them. I feel like that happens a lot in like superhero and comic. Like Batman can't kill the henchmen.
No,
but the
just
Joker
foils
can.
their plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we get the information from Leandrin that Sandar had to be persuaded to serve.
Yeah. And earlier I highlighted Julian telling Nynaeve, like, I'm sorry I had to. I have
no choice.
Yeah.
And he really didn't. Leandrin is very good at persuading, no?
And he doesn't know what's going on, so he doesn't know what to say, like, she used the power on my mind, so
Right.
I couldn't do anything else.
I don't even know if he could say that.
Maybe not.
I doubt the compulsion would let him.
Possibly.
Or I'm not even sure he knows he's being compelled. You know, it's just like he thinks he has to do something.
And then we see Nynaeve and Elaine. Nynaeve kind of tries to turn it around to scare Leandrin. No, you're the fool. Do you think they just sent 3 accepted without any backing whatsoever, chasing fully trained sisters across the world?
That would be so stupid. Only idiots would follow that plan. What's the combination? 1, 2, 3, 4,
It's clever
5.
to try, you know, to at least try that. And Nynaeve's like, you're right, we are the bait, and you just walked into the trap.
You're surrounded. There's police all around us on all sides. You just can't see or hear them.
And Elaine kind of plays along. It's like, we have to get them to take us inside the stone.
Which is the last thing they want.
Make sure they take us to jail for sure.
Right.
But Leandrin only smiled. Once your time as bait is done, you will tell us everything. You will want to. They say you will be very strong one day, but I will make sure you will always obey me, even before the great Master Balal works his plans for you. He is sending for Myrddraal, 13 of them. Those rosebud lips laughed the final words. Nynaeve felt her stomach twist. One of the Forsaken, her brain numbed with shock. The Dark One and all the Forsaken are bound in Sheol Ghul, bound by the Creator in the moment of creation. But the Catechism did not help. She knew too well how much of it was false. Then, the rest of it came home to her. 13 Myrddraal, and 13 sisters of the Black Acha. She heard Elaine screaming before she realized she was screaming herself. jerking uselessly in those invisible bonds of air. It was impossible to say which was louder, their despairing screams or the laughter from Leandrin and Rihanna.
So Leandrin is essentially threatening there to torture her into obeying even before they get converted.
Yeah,
That's sort of what I read it. Like, I will make sure you always obey me even before the Great Master works his plans.
Ah.
So I was thinking that, like, she was going to break Nynaeve through torture.
Oh, I just saw it as, like, her kind of gloating that she could compel Nynaeve to do whatever she wanted.
Not the good dorm. But I think it was our sophomore year, we ended up getting, like, instead of having to live together, we got 2 singles, but they were the smallest 2 rooms, like, on campus.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, like, nice that I didn't have to share my room with somebody, which was actually really rare.
Sure. I think that's really rare everywhere.
Yeah, totally.
And yes, East Badger dorms are always laid out a bit oddly. It's because it's about economics and not comfort or ergonomics. I learned a long time ago that a lot of dorms are designed by the same people who design prisons because the concept is basically the same. Like, how do you get as many people into these little spaces as possible without, like, you know, ruining sanitation and stuff?
There was even, what were the 2 dorms, Matt, that were designed with they were brick walls, and it was like not really a maze, but like a one hall of a maze that went like back and forth, so there was no straight line through the hallway. And it was always rumored that it was built as a riot control measure because it was like built in the 70s when students on liberal campuses were like rioting a lot. And it was like you can't run straight down the hall was the whole... That was just the rumor on campus. I'm not sure if that was the truth, but the idea was like if students go rioting, they can't like build up momentum. Yeah, Dana Hallwell. That's what it was.
Yeah, I'm pretty glad I never had to do that. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to hang out in a tiny box with a stranger. Who does? Who does?
Nobody. That's so many relationships get ruined because of that situation.
It's not like because I'm an introvert, I wouldn't enjoy it. Nobody would enjoy that situation. It's such a weird thing. It's like, you're becoming an adult. You're growing up. Now you don't get your own room anymore.
Right. Right. I mean, I do feel like there was a lot of single children who grew up by themselves who needed to learn how to share. I feel like that's part of it.
Yeah. I feel like personally I'd almost like prefer an actual like San Quentin prison cell to myself over the...
I guess the question is, do I get to actually, can I come and go
like
as I please?
4 feet by 6 feet. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, then totally. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Just a toilet, a desk, and a bed.
Dude, I would have killed for a toilet in my room. Are you kidding me? I had to walk down the hallway to use the toilet or shower. And with a towel around my waist, and it was terrible.
I was dating a girl for a long time when I was in my early 20s that lived in it was 4 girls, 2 rooms connected by the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been worse.
That's a nicer setup where you're actually like sharing the bathroom with a set number of people as opposed to like anyone who happens to be in the hallway.
Slightly more humane.
Right.
That was the dorm room that was designed by the same people that designed some of New Jersey state prisons.
Hey, an architect's an architect. It doesn't...
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah.
The only real difference is whether the locks on the doors, also work from the inside.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?